TLDR. How do I deal with self-limiting thoughts and feeling like my time is running out?
What a theme we're on today.
I know, right? Hi, Gabby and Allison. I spent a good chunk of my 20s dealing with what I now know was debilitating depression that held me back greatly. My dream forever was to be a public interest lawyer, and I talked myself out of it all the time because what if I fail? So-and-so is doing better than me and I can't compete. What if I've lost momentum? What if it's too late? I was 25/26, and a whole slew of other depressive, cruel thoughts. I'm 30 now and getting to a healthier, happier place and advocating for myself more. And of course, law school is still on my mind. Deep down, I know I could do it and be great at it. But if I thought I was too this or not enough of that in my 20s, I'm definitely still struggling with that in my 30s. I'm still so stuck on numbers, comparisons, and this freaking timeline. Like, I'll be mid-30s when I graduate law school if I start next year. I tell myself I'll be 35 anyway. Might as well be a 35-year-old public interest lawyer than not, but something still half holds me back. How can someone manage such extremely pervasive, self-limiting thoughts, such as feeling not good enough for success or comparing yourself to others? What about ageism within yourself and feeling like a late bloomer whose time is running out? Thank you so much for taking the time to read this.
Ooh, this just gave me a slight panic feeling in my chest. Hearing this, I compare myself constantly. I've worked on it a lot, but last night I wrote in my journal, jealous, feeling like I'm comparing to this person. I don't know anything. And I'm not as good as this person. And why don't I have what this person has? And just I've ran out of time and all of this stuff I used to judge when I was 26. I used to look at people who were 30 and be like, I feel so bad for you.
I know.
Did you do that too?
Well, I definitely used to have a lot of older friends. And so I loved being the young one. And I loved that I was doing stuff and they were in their late 20s, 30s. And I was in my early 20s and I was I'm crushing it. And now I'm in my early 30s and I'm uh-oh.
I think you're right on, Anonymous, with might as well be a 35-year-old public interest lawyer. I think you're going to get to that age anyway. May as well have completed your goal by that point. I have had to reevaluate what is old and what is you're too late and whatever, by looking at all these people who, one, I'm still alive. Two, who didn't start.
Wait, you're not a ghost?
I'm not a ghost. You're sorry.
Not a spooky ghost?
Sorry. I mean, I wish, but no. And so many people didn't start their careers or didn't know what they wanted to do until they were 30s, 40s. There's so many people that we admire that didn't realize what they wanted to do until a certain age. I think a lot of this is capitalism, which we can blame for most things on this show, where you have this idea and this drive and all of this media telling you that you have to know exactly what you want to do and you have to be so successful by this age. And also I think if you're a female bodied person, it's oh my God, well, I have to have kids by this age because then my eggs are dying and blah, blah, blah. And so there is a very real family timeline on those people if you want to have a family, although you could adopt, you could, freeze your eggs, all these kinds of things, I guess that are very expensive though. So less so of a timeline on, I think, male-bodied people, but it's still mostly so self-imposed and mostly so this idea that you can't change later in life, that there's you have to start on a path. And if you decide to do something later, or if you just write your first book at 41, or if you, whatever, all these things, it's you're basically dead by the time, by the time you're 35, you may as well lay in a coffin. That is bonkers to me. Do you feel 31?
No.
Yeah, I don't feel it either.
No, because I wish I knew more stuff about forms. But I think I have to say, for one of my classes, I have to keep taking all these personality tests, which I now find to be a complete waste of time. And I was taking one yesterday and it was all about how future oriented I am and all of this stuff. And one of the things about having the rug pulled out from under me with the abandonment was I now recognize that, like, to a certain extent, planning for the future is so futile.
Yep.
That, like, I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think two things are really happening for me. I'm recognizing that I have very little control over the future, both based on my personal life and my fiance abandoning me. And so I'd been laying this groundwork for, almost 2 years with this person. I had done everything quote unquote right. I had from the beginning said what my intentions were. We had moved in together. We had gotten engaged. We had been building a life together. We had, I was working towards this lifestyle that I wanted. And then it went bye-bye. I would say not even bye-bye. That would have been nicer. I went bye. And then and then with my school, I'm in this program where I literally have no idea what I'm going to do with it. Where I'm in the program, I have no idea if I'm going, right now I'm on track to probably graduate end of 2022, but I have no idea if I will have professional commitments that prevent me from graduating that quickly. I hope that I do, because that would be great. That means probably that I sold something, or I've staffed on a show, or, that's almost like something I want to happen potentially. I also don't know if I'm going to get licensed, because again, that sort of means that my writing career isn't going the way that I want it to be. But I'm taking this new approach of taking things so much more day by day. And in taking things more day by day, I'm letting myself take on so many more opportunities, because it's like, who the fuck knows? I might as well just do as many things as possible and then see where everything lands.
Right. Like if this listener goes to law school,
right,
you're only in law school that day. You know that you're in law school today and maybe tomorrow, but you don't know, like, anything could happen. You could like, you are planning to be a lawyer, but like, who knows? So you can only make decisions for yourself based on like that day.
When you overly plan, and like, it's great. Obviously you want to have a sense of like what you want to do. And I think that, like, it's so interesting, because I think that you feel weighed down by the fact that you have this desire, but you are of a certain age. But there are so many people out there that don't know what they want to do with their lives.
And that's fine.
Yeah. But the fact that you know what you want to do with your life, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a gift. And that's something so many people wish that they had.
Yes.
And so for you to have such a specific goal in mind, you owe it to yourself to fucking go after that goal.
Yes.
Like, who cares what age you are? Like, I guarantee there are plenty of 40-year-olds who are like, oh, if I wanted to be I wish I wanted to be a public interest lawyer. I wish I wanted to be anything. I wish I knew what I wanted to be, because that clarity can be so freeing. And so I feel like you really owe it to yourself, if you have that clarity, to follow it and not let these arbitrary numbers get in the way of what you know about yourself.
Sometimes I get very down on myself for not having been more strategic. Like, I wonder.
But you can't, like, look how strategic I was with Jake.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Or like, look how strategic I was with my career. It doesn't, like, we were seconds away from having a TV show on MTV. And then our third lead was accused of rape.
Right.
Do you know, like, you can do everything right, and it literally does not matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's so many things that are out of your control.
Right.
And we could have never predicted that, right? There are so many things that happen where you're just like, you make a list in your head of like, here's all the bad things that could happen. And then in my experience, the one bad thing that does happen is literally something you could have never conceived of.
Right.
You just would it just would never even enter your brain. And you're like, I didn't see that one coming. And
that's exactly, I mean, my trip back to LA, I was like, traveling with Sugar, traveling without Jake, getting back to the apartment without him being there, the emotional pain of that. Oh, my knee dislocated.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It even been on your top 100 list of things that could happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. But I get down on myself because I guess I have this idea that other people are like really strategic about like, but I think, I guess I have been as strategic as I could have possibly been.
100%.
Yeah.
And even if you wouldn't, it doesn't even necessarily mean that you would be in a different place. Like, so much of life is out of our control.
Yeah.
What we can control is how we react to things.
Yeah.
What we can control is our adaptability. We can control our openness.
Mm-hmm.
We can control our lack of self-judgment. And we can control not putting like arbitrary limitations on ourselves.
Yeah.
So
some stuff has been my fault.
Sure.
You know, like some stuff is like, whoops, that's on me. Like in terms of like not being in control, sometimes I have been in control and I steered the car right off the cliff. So that's hard to deal with. But in some ways, you go back and you pick apart and you're like, well, it's mental illness. It's, you know, this was going on and whatever.
Just between